Okay, so welcome back everyone. Brilliant to see you join us again. We are going to go keep the momentum going, and this week we are talking about how to sell things. Because as we mentioned last time when we looked at the different options for what you can sell in your online business, we mentioned that depending on what you sell, there are different marketing tactics or different strategies that you can use. So that's what we're going to be exploring basically this time, this session and next session. What we're not going to cover, and I just want to set expectations for this week right now, is we're not going to cover traffic, because traffic is almost a separate issue. It's very important, of course. It's the lifeblood of any online business, but we'll cover that separately, probably next week. So that's all to come, right? We'll go through that probably starting next week. But this week, this session and next, we're just really going to be focusing on basically how to sell things using different marketing strategies. So with that said, let's switch over to the slides here, and hopefully let me know if you can all see this. That would be great, and then we'll kick off and get into our business today. So the first thing is we're going to look at Nano Products and online courses. If you remember last time, a couple of sessions ago, we looked at how to build these, what they're about, when to use them, and so on. But now we're going to look at some marketing strategies to actually get them sold online. So first of all, let's look at Nano Products. Now, what we're really talking about here, you can expand this to any budget product, really. So it doesn't have to be just Nano Products. If you're selling a book, we talked about books before, or even a cheap online course, right, that sells for, $100 or a couple of $100, or really anything at a lower price point, this kind of process tends to work very, very well. As with all of these marketing strategies that we're going to go through, there's no fixed boundaries for what you can and can't use. You can merge these. You can use different strategies for different products. You can blur the boundaries between them, borrow strategies and tactics from other types of marketing systems, and so on. So you can get very, very creative with this. But as always, we're just going to go through the core understanding of what you can do, what is possible, and what I've found to work extremely well in my business over best part of 10 years, but also in my clients' and customers' businesses as well. So with relatively small budget priced products, so typically less than $100, but it can be more, the simplest method, generally speaking, is using a written sales page. That doesn't mean it's the only option. You can do many other things as well, but this is typically this is the simplest way of getting something sold. Now, what we mean by a written sales page is something like this. You've all seen this before. You go to a page, there's a big headline at the top, maybe there's a video, but there is a load of text with bullet points, sub-headlines, and so on. And right at the bottom, usually at the bottom, there is a buy button. And the purpose of that page is not to collect opt-ins or to share content like you would do, say, on a blog post or a social media post. The purpose of this page is to sell a product. It's a conversion page. Remember, we talked about conversion pages before. So that's what we're going to explore first of all. So let's go onto the web and we'll look at a couple of examples. Again, these are from my business, but you will recognize this format. You will have seen it. It's a traditional format that originally came really from direct mail, direct response marketing, which has pre-existed the internet for decades and decades, probably for hundreds of years, really. You can trace the origins back. So this is a long time tested formula, really. All we're doing is using the medium of the internet to deliver this approach. So let's go and have a look and pull this across. All right, so what we've got here is one of my sales pages. And this is a written sales page. There's no video at all on this whatsoever. I'll show you a video, one with a video version to begin with. And it's a rather unusual headline. Okay, so we're not going to get too bogged down into why. We really want to just look at the structure of this page. Now, almost always there's a headline at the top, which is here. And then you've got lots of text. You've got sub-headlines like this. You've got some bullet points we can see. Oh, there's a picture, so images. You often see those, don't you? So let's just eye up this page and see what we've got. What kind of elements and components are in here? That's the first thing to understand. There's a logo. All right, some more effectively like bullet points or feature points. So this is testimonials, so feedback from customers. There's a bit about a bonus, a guarantee. So again, these are common elements that you will have seen many, many times. And finally, we get down to the good old buy button. And when people click that, as you would expect, you're going to go through to a checkout page. All right. So that's the first thing to understand about these pages. They can look very, very confusing and overwhelming. If you're starting out and you think, oh, great, I'm going to create a book or a nano product or an online course or whatever it is, and then you think, okay, how am I going to sell this? You can start thinking, oh my goodness, like where do I even begin with a page like this? What's going on? Well, step one is to understand that, yes, this is a fairly long page, but all it is just a collection of different components or different elements that are strung together. That's it. So things like the headline, the guarantee, the social proof testimonials, the sign-off bit at the bottom, the story in there, I call that the narration, the images, they're all just different elements. And you can work on one element at a time and then build that in. So let's have a look at the kind of structure that you can give to your page. Now that we understand that all it is just a number of building blocks or components that we put together in a certain order, let's learn a little bit more. Okay, so if we go back to our good old PowerPoint here, there's something, I call it the dear friend narration. And you will see this, all right? So we'll have a look on the pages in a moment. I'll show you this sort of live on the web. But for now, this is the bit, you might have seen this. It says, dear entrepreneur, or dear stock trader, or dear fellow gardener, whatever it is. It's the dear friend, and it's like a letter. This is where this format originally came from. It's called a sales letter, and that used to be sent out, still is often, in direct mail. Through the post and goes through people's letterboxes. So here's a great way of doing it. It's not the only way, as with all of these things, right? But this is a way that I've used time and time again, and it's really flexible as well, and it helps you just mold your thinking around what you actually need to do, instead of just a blank sheet of paper or a blinking cursor, which can be really overwhelming. Now you've got a structure. Here's what we do. First of all, we talk about the problem. So this is the problem that your product or service is going to solve. We establish, we say that there's this problem. Then we talk about the consequences of that problem, the negative consequences. Then we talk about the conventional solutions. So in other words, if people have this problem, what do they typically do? Then we talk about the problem with those conventional solutions. So yeah, people normally do this when they've got that problem, but here's the problem with that, right? Here's the trouble. It's not actually ideal. And then finally, we introduce our product or service as the solution. Okay. So let's just do a quick check-in. Let me know, give me a Y in the live chat, please, if this is making sense. I just want to make sure that we bring everyone with us at this stage and give me an excuse to have another sip of coffee here. So just type in why if that makes sense, please. Okay, John was first. Thank you very much, John. All right, so what we're going to do is go back to the web here, and let's see if we can spot this formula, right? Let's see if we can see this happening on the page, all right? Now, this is a little introduction here, all right? I'm not going to go through this. It's a bit of ad-libbing on my behalf here with this sales page. But let's get stuck into the main meat of this letter. And you can see straight away, we're talking about, there's a subheading here alluding to a problem. The number one problem facing internet marketing in 2020. And the problem turns out to be, if you read this, that people are literally swamped with emails, social marketing, ads, almost every minute of the day. So it's information overload. All right, that's the problem. Now, the next stage, if you remember, is the consequences of this problem, because most people have problems. We've all got problems, but we learn to live with them, and we either go into a state of denial or our minds mask the negative consequences of it, and we kind of put it to one side. So what we want to do here is get real with the prospect and say, look, this is a genuine problem, and here's what the consequences are. Right, this is why it needs solving. So we're not creating pain here, but we're showing the prospect the potential negative consequences they could experience if they don't get this problem solved. So that increases a motivation to actually go forward and find a solution. Right, so in this case, we've got some bullet points explaining those consequences. So things like squeeze page opt-in rates are lower, email open rates and clicks are down, and so on. So that is what's going on there. Now, the next thing is, what's the conventional solution for these problems? All right. So how do we fight back? Well, there's several things you can do to get an edge, and we talk about creating better products, working harder, building bigger email lists, increasing your ad budget. Again, done with bullet points, which can be very eye-catching on your web pages. But then the next stage, if you remember, is pointing out the problem or the challenges, the trouble with these conventional solutions. The trouble is, all of the above takes a lot of hard work, time or money. So that's that next stage, okay? Now, the next thing, the final stage of the narration, is to then position our product or service as the solution, all right? Because by this point, there's clearly another solution required, right? Because we've established the problem, we've brought out the consequences, we've shown what the usual solutions are, and we've shown that those usual solutions aren't enough. So now we've got an opportunity to present our product as something the client can use to help them. So that's what we do. And now we're just introducing the product. And all we're doing here is just talking about different benefits of the product and what it will do and how it will help the customer. That's it. So here actually is for this particular one, this is actually social proof. Not as a testimonial, not from a customer or a previous client, but actually from a third party, from a big company, VW, right? German car maker, all right, who used a classic ad here with a pattern interrupt in it. That's what this product's all about. It's about pattern interrupts, right? A bit of an esoteric kind of marketing tactic, if you like, that you can use. So I'm demonstrating here, this is important. What this is saying is, don't listen to me. You don't have to believe me, all right? You probably don't know me. Why would you trust me? But have a look what VW did. They did it. So now do you think it's important? Do you think it's possibly something that might be useful to you? So we're bringing in more evidence to support the case that we're making. And then we can go on and establish and embellish that with all sorts of things. So we're emphasising the the benefits of it, where they can use it. Okay, so all these different things, right, they can use this product in. It's going to help them. All right, then we're into social proof. Now, don't get hung up on testimonials. Pretty much every single product I've ever launched, and I've done quite a few, high price, low price, like this one, and a lot in between. Pretty much everything I've launched without any social proof or customer reviews or customer comments or anything, right, from the start. All of these comments I've added in later on after I've started. So don't think you're in a chicken and egg scenario here. You're not. So there we go. And then all we're doing really is just standard elements, right? So we see the guarantee. That's pretty much the same for any product that you want to do. You can tweak it as different formats, but it's just a guarantee. All right, call to action, bringing people in and signing off at the bottom, few images, and we're done. So that's the core structure. Now we could go on and we could look at, say, another product, okay? So effectively that was just a Nano product that we looked at. It's probably slightly bigger than the average Nano product. This one is, this one, shall I say, is a software Nano product. So this doesn't teach anyone anything. All it does is save people time and hassle. I wanted to show you this because it's a little tip on headlines. The last page we looked at had a very weird headline, right? That's not usual. Most stuff, that was just a sort of hobby project I did, really, on the side, which did pretty well, but it's a bit of a different one, right? A bit of an esoteric kind of project. This one is a bit more mainstream in terms of the copywriting at the top. So what we've got is a headline, and the format for the headline is benefits without objections. Benefits without objections. So benefits are things that your customer can benefit from. That's what it's going to do for them. Different from the features, all right, of your product, how it's going to actually help them. And then the objections are things that they don't want. So let's look at that. Instantly discover money-making WordPress plugins and themes, plus reverse engineer any website. Those are 2 benefits there. Okay, in fact 3 if you think instantly. That says it's rapid. Okay, so that's another benefit. They can get the benefits quicker in just a single click of your mouse. Well, that's another benefit. It's easy, right? They just need to click once and they'll get the result. And then we say without the stuff they don't want. These are the objections: confusing tech tools, trawling source code, or visiting website analysis sites. That is a simple headline you can use for pretty much anything, whatever you're selling. And that can work for all price products. You can use it in videos, all sorts of stuff, right? It's not the only formula. I use various other things, and as you get into this more, you'll realize more doors open and you can learn more and more and more. But we're just focusing on the core stuff, remember, here. So there's a little video, literally 4 minutes, just showing, because this is a tool. Okay, so it just saves people time and hassle. So how to use the tool basically is that video. We're not going to dwell on that. Again, more testimonials, but do not get put off, right? All of the ones that you see came in afterwards. I launched this and many other products that I've done, almost all of them, without any social proof whatsoever to begin with. But then look, here's the letter. This is the dear friend, in this case, dear web entrepreneur. So you can see we're talking about problems to start with, okay? And then the consequences of that problem, all right, down here. And then we're saying, well, what's the conventional solutions for that? Remember, that's step 3. Well, one way is to read forums, blogs, and newsletters to keep up to date. You can download expensive software, etc., right? That's what a lot of people do. But here's the problem with those conventional solutions. It's very expensive and time consuming. There's a much easier way. Now we're introducing the product. Product equals solution. Your product equals the solution. So do you see, come back in the live chat. I want to just touch base with you again and make sure that that's making sense. And while you're responding, just say yes, or yeah, that's great, or if you've got a question, let me know. So what we're doing, and while we're waiting for that, if you look further down on the page, what you can see is just a number of different elements. So these are like feature boxes, more testimonials. Here's features down here, so very similar to the other product, right? And other products that you've seen for sale online, they use these same components. So this is social proof, all right, the number of WordPress sites, okay, but third-party social proof, a bit like we saw before with that advert. Bonus, some more testimonials, a guarantee, very similar. There's only so many ways you can vary a guarantee. Call to action, get it now, and that will go through to the checkout again, sign off. So you can see, hopefully, that there are a lot of elements here that are similar. That they're not. It's very, very easy to look at these sales pages and get really intimidated. All right, because you hear all this stuff about copywriting, you think, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to study it for years and read loads of books, and there's people who do it professionally who have done it for 20 years, and you must think it's just, and then these pages go on forever and ever and ever when you scroll down. How could you possibly create it yourself? Well, the reality is you can, and you just do it building block by building block. So for example, if you wanted to create one starting today, after this session, you could build your guarantee. Then tomorrow you could write your headline using that formula I gave you. Then you could start working on the narration of the dear friend. So you establish the problem the next day. Then after that, you build that out and talk about the consequences of the problem. And the next stage, right? What the typical solutions are, the conventional solutions. And then you might find some social proof, maybe some newspaper reports or some headlines that you can bring in, support the case that you're making, and so on. And you can just do this building block by building block. That's the way to do it. It's like with all of this stuff in the business, it's not, if you look at it in one go, it's just a mountain. It's impossible, or it feels like that to start with. Once you've done it several times, it's not intimidating at all. I mean, I love it. I love all this stuff. It's brilliant. That's really one of my passions is marketing. That's why I do this business. So you can get to that same point and really enjoy it. Even if you think you won't, you will once you've got the skill set and you've done it and you've broken it down and you're going forward. So that's the main message. So let's crack on and we'll go back to the next section, which is how to sell online courses. Now, you can use a written sales page. There's many courses out there, even high price courses. So I was looking at something last night, which was $3,000, $29.97, I think, and that was using a written sales page with some videos in it. But it was basically the core of it was a page just like the ones we've looked at. So you absolutely can use that if you want to. Or you can just use a video, right? But the higher price you get, the more beneficial it is to think about a structure for your launch, and in particular, creating maybe some kind of event around your launch. Now, I don't mean a physical live event like in a hotel or a conference meeting centre. I mean an online event. So as a very general rule, the higher the price, the longer the page. That's true, all right? So you can see those, if we were selling something for $2,000 or $1,000, then you really want to walk people through, take them by the hand and do some great copywriting. Or you can use a product launch sequence, and this is the other idea of an event. So check this out, all right? Instead of one web page which has all the information on it from top to bottom, from headline to buy button, what we're now doing is creating this event by spreading it out over time, probably about 5 days. When I began in 2010, this process often used to take up to 2 weeks, people's attention span was longer. Nowadays, it's a little bit less. And I would certainly, the launches I do usually are 4 or 5 days. All right, that's a nice period. Gives you space, room for maneuver. You can do lots of things, but you're not going to bore people or have their attention wander elsewhere. So what you can do, and this is one way of doing it, right? If you're going to use videos, which is a great medium to use, because we've looked at text, so let's look at some video now. You can have one video, the first one, and this is just pure content. So what you're doing here is you're actually helping people with information, stuff to get them started. Share some of your system with them. Share some of the genuine training. All right, and just have that as content. No sales pitches, no buy this or you might want to do that, nothing, just content. So what this is doing is two things. One is it's proving that you can help people, okay, by you actually giving them free training. You're giving them results in advance, in effect, for free. So that gives them the ultimate proof in their minds that you can actually help them. It's all very well putting up testimonials from other people who've been successful. That's great. I've got loads of testimonials on my website, and you've seen some of the other ones on the web pages, for example, and that's brilliant. That helps. But the big challenge, massive objection people have in any market is that that's fine. I believe this is good. I know that, I can see these other people have been successful, but it's not going to work for me. It won't work for me because I'm different. And we all feel different, don't we? We feel like we're the only ones with the problems. Of course we're not, but that's how it feels. So this video is a perfect opportunity to actually go out there and just help people, all right? And just give them some great training and give them the max you can do. So one thing I like to do with this first video is position it as a crash course, a 45-minute crash course. So just 45 minutes and just pack in as much help as you can. So that's what that does. And secondly, it preps them for the next sequence. It gets them excited about what you're talking about. So at the end of video 1, you just simply go, if you've liked this, what I'm going to talk about in the next video, I'll maybe answer a few questions about this, make a few extra points, and then I'm going to talk about my new course, my new online course, which is all about this. Okay, so if that's something of interest to you, then come along, check out video 2, which will be in a few days. So you're creating this event and you're leading in, you're trailing things that are going to happen in the future. If you look at how lots of big companies launch their products, this is exactly what they do. They make pre-announcements and they trail things, and journalists write about what could be coming out and so on. Apple is a classic example in the tech space of how they don't just announce it and put a press release out, right? It's trailed months in advance. That's a huge scale, obviously, and you can take the essence of that and distill it down into something that suits you, that's the right size for you. These product launch sequences can be as simple or as complex as you want to make them. I've done very, very simple ones internally just to my subscribers. I've done much bigger ones which go out to external marketing partners and so on that are much bigger, higher prices, 6-figure type launches in terms of the revenue that's generated. So you can scale these, you can do them in different ways, but the core is the same. So just get the core concept and then you've got this in your toolbox. All right, you can worry about all the tactics and the micro details later. So the next one I call the registration video. So here you'd probably start it, go through, say, I hope you liked the last video. Couple of points I just wanted to clarify, A, B, and C. You might have this question, so I wanted to address that, so on. So you do some questions. If you're doing this live, you can actually take genuine questions. Well, not genuine, they're all genuine, but the questions that have actually been submitted that have come in. If not, you can answer ones that you know come up time and time again from experience. Anything that they would like to know, share with them. And then go in and talk about your course. And you can do that in the same way that we do it on a sales letter. So just go through, all right, that same sequence. Now there are formulas for this, and I've got a formula that I use. Product launches, we could blow this up into another 3 weeks training just on this, all right? Obviously that's way beyond the scope of what we're doing. But if you want to learn any more about this, you can do so for free. Just go and watch other people's launches. Sign up, watch these videos, or read their sales pages. You can read mine. I've just shown you a couple of them, right? And model them. Don't copy and paste, but model them, emulate this style, because that's what works. And then finally, this is optional really, but you might want to do a frequently asked questions video at the end. And that's a great way of answering objections, reasons why people might be resistant to signing up or registering for your online course. So that's the formula. Now you can do it like this, spaced over like 3, 4, 5 days if you want to. That is a winner. It's one of the most powerful methods I've ever used to sell premium priced courses, and cheaper courses if you want to as well. Or you can condense all of that and you can do it in a good old webinar. So this webinar you can either deliver live using something like Zoom or GoToWebinar, or you can record a video and have that video played out with some automated software. Okay, so something I use is EverWebinar, for example. All right, so there's lots of different formats. That's probably one of the reasons you see so many webinars around, because they work. And the essence of them is this product launch sequence, but condensed down into one session. So that's a lot of information. And like I said, we can explode all of this into different training courses. We really could. And there are training courses on all sorts of different things. There's a lot of stuff that I've done on that, a lot of training and so on that I do on these kind of techniques. But there's a great benefit in just grasping the core ideas. A lot of people, I find, get sucked into the micro detail and the tactics, and that actually slows them down. So try to just step back, try to just see the overview and what the aim is of each bit. And really, once you've got that baked into your mind, then it's a lot easier then to go forward and implement that. And that's when you can start getting into more copywriting. You can learn product launch tactics. You can learn the ins and outs of webinars, how to construct these videos if you're going to do video, or if you're going to do written copy, you can do that, and so on. And that's years and years of learning and trial and error and loads of stuff. And it's a lot of the stuff that obviously I've gone through building my business. So let's talk about bottlenecks, because have you ever had the situation where you've set out to do something, and then like 2 months later or 3 months later, you're not really where you thought you were going to be or wanted to be? And you look back over the last 2 months or 3 months and you think, what was I actually doing? How can it take this long? Where's the time gone? Now, I'm sure that you've had that feeling, all right? If you have, then the reasons could be varied. There's lots of reasons you can end up in that situation. One of them, though, is that you've had some challenges in what you've tried to do. It wasn't as easy as you thought. Well, that's just life, isn't it? And it's certainly business. There are always roadblocks and challenges. But here's the thing. It's a little bit like taking a car journey. You could drive from, well, let's go to America. You could drive from New York to Los Angeles, which I have done, and you can go on the interstates all the way through, And you might be plain sailing for 90% or 95% of that journey. It might you just be going, right, no problem. But just maybe on 1 or 2 occasions, you end up in a jam. And that really slows you down. Well, building your business can be exactly like that. So it's not necessarily that you're wading through treacle the whole time and everything's slowing you down. Rather, there's just a couple of bottlenecks, a few little bottlenecks along your journey which are stopping you. They're success preventers, essentially, or they're progress preventers. You just can't get over them, and you stopped in your tracks, or they're very, very slow and you don't really find a good system, or you don't find a good solution. So if this resonates with you, bottlenecks, and it is true, right? Think just with all of these things, as we say, the first level is an awareness. So try to think about identifying these bottlenecks. What actually is it that's stopping you getting where you want to go? What specifically? Not the overall kind of woolly thinking, oh, well, I've never really tried to be able to do this and I've always struggled with that. What actually is it? Is it you can't decide what page builder to use, or you don't know how to use the page builder, or you've got a problem with copywriting, or is it the traffic side, or if so, what particular part of that? Really isolate it down and you will find your bottlenecks. And then what I recommend that you do is focus relentlessly on those bottlenecks and find a solution. So for example, one of the bottlenecks I found quite a few years ago was sales page writing, which we've been talking about today. And that's why I developed that 5-part Dear Friend narration system, which really helps me. You can see, I've shown you a couple of pages where I've actually used it for, live to sell copies of products. And that has unblocked that bottleneck for me. So it might be that you have no inspiration for sales pages or sales videos. You don't know what to write. You've got a blinking cursor. Well, what you can do then is identify that as the problem, and then go out. A good solution would be to build a swipe file where you collect lots of other sales pages in your market, store them on your computer. I do this actually, and I store mine in Dropbox, screenshots and screen grabs and stuff, and I store it all in folders on my computer. And then when I'm coming to write a sales page, I've got that wonderful vault, that archive of inspiration to emulate. So these bottlenecks, these things that are stopping you, isolate them specifically, be as specific as you can, and then find a solution, like a mini system or a mini framework, like the examples I've given you, or create a resource like a swipe file to help you solve them. Because if you don't, what will happen is it'll just creep into the rest of your thinking and create fog. You'll just see fog and you'll never go forward because it's all just very unspecific and general. It's like, oh, the whole project's dragging me down. It's like so on, I don't know. Identify your bottlenecks. That's what I'd really recommend that you do. So that is it for this session. In 2 days' time, we are going to be going through continuity and coaching. How do we sell those? Well, those have different selling systems, and that's what we'll be focusing on Thursday. So I really hope you've enjoyed this. I love spending time with you. I think this is great fun, and I hope you're keeping safe, you're enjoying it. I hope the weather will be good this week and you're going to knock it out of the park and have a really good week. Please do share this. I'd love it if you would. And if you could like the video as well, if you do like it, hit the like button. That just helps it, maybe appear in other people's feeds here on YouTube. Don't forget we're in the Facebook group. What else? You can get transcriptions, slide downloads on the resource page. All those links are below in the description in the YouTube video. So take care for now. We'll be back in a couple of days. All right, bye for now.